It's December 27th, 2019. I'm at U of T. I'm going to talk a little bit about why I never finished my master's degree. Part of it was I had a lot on my plate with transitioning, and I was writing grants to pay for surgeries because it wasn't covered at the time. It's not covered under OHIP, but my plan with York University doing postgraduate studies, a master's degree, I had access to union funding for a trans surgical grant, or a grant for trans people to have surgeries. There's a specialty one for buying differently gendered clothes, and ones to help with compensating for financial disparity because of lack of employment. The experience from being differently gendered. So I was writing those and getting most of my income that way. I did have guaranteed work income, but in my program, it was, I think, half or a quarter of what the regular grad program, postgraduate studies programs in other departments were getting. And it was a very small department, and they were struggling to just keep the department open, I guess. So there was that, and then I had issues with my employment placements. I experienced being overworked, having to do 2 to 3 times the amount of work hours for the employer than was actually allocated, and then I would have to apply to another, not really a grant, but a fund that makes up the difference of what your employment's supposed to be. So that took up a lot of time away from my working on my classwork, and also coming from a similar situation in my undergrad. I did an undergrad Bachelor of Fine Art in Integrated Media at the Ontario College of Art and Design, and at the time I had to work always a minimum of 3 to 4 jobs to maintain a stable enough income to pay for school and pay my rent and pay for classes. And I actually went down to part-time because I couldn't handle the workload, and I was literally starving, and I didn't know about outreach services, or felt that I wasn't technically homeless, so like I didn't really deserve it. So I didn't utilize things like a food bank or healthcare services that I could have benefited from. So part of the reason I left was because I was expecting to get a lower grade than I wanted in one of my classes, and I wanted to keep it in an A or B average because I later wanted to do my PhD at U of T here, and you need a certain grade average to come here. I think it's like a very minimum, it's a B plus across the board, and previous to that my undergrad is like kind of C's and B's, and I had registered for a class that I decided I didn't want to take and took a different class, and I withdrew from this class, submitted the paperwork, it wasn't processed, submitted the paperwork, it wasn't processed, submitted the paperwork. So I submitted it, I want to say at least 5 times, maybe 6, maybe 8, I can't even remember. And there was always a wait time of, they tell you, well, it's going to take 4 to 6 months to process the paperwork. And then so I would check back in a couple months, and then at 4 months, and then at 6 months, and it wasn't processed. So I would then go to the Faculty of Graduate Studies, inquire there, and then inquire at my department, or vice versa. I'd keep going back and forth, and I would also inquire at the place where my department submits the paperwork before it goes to graduate faculty studies. And it was never processed, so somebody somewhere along those lines was not submitting the paperwork that I gave them. I have a feeling it was our graduate studies administrator, who is like the secretary of our department, and there's really only 2 jobs in the whole department. There's the secretary, and then there's the dean, and there's nobody else working in the department. The only other thing is there's like a student union, like where students would meet and discuss student issues, and like basically deciding what emails they wanted to get, or like that was another thing too. The graduate studies administrator, I'm just gonna put it out there, her name is Fiona, would give you like maybe 30 emails a day, and within those, if there was something very important that you needed to have done, like your incomplete mark moved to a withdrawal before it turns into a fail, like like my friend was saying, he would spend all day looking through all these emails to find the emails that were actually like for him, and not just announcements from Fiona saying, oh, because it was an interdisciplinary program, it's called the IS department. You choose 3 disciplines, so mine was biology, specifically endocrinology. And the reason why I wanted to come to U of T was because they have a medical illustration program I wanted to go into after, but I could never, obviously I never graduated, so I can't apply, and it was to help me combine with my fine arts degree and then a medical kind of degree. I could then apply for the master's, or now there's a PhD program for medical illustration, so that's what I wanted to do 7 years ago. I was at York University, admitted 2011, and withdrew, or it wasn't, I couldn't even apply for, because of this paperwork, I couldn't even apply for I forget what they call it, something withdrawal, like acceptable withdrawal. It was kind of a like, you are withdrawn like without telling anybody kind of thing, like it was my fault, it was my bad that I was like a fail completely across the board. My incomplete grade from my philosophy class I tried to withdraw from, it automatically switches in the computer system to a fail after a term, I think, or 3 terms or something like that. So I was under a time constraint with that too. And I kept submitting the work, and when I went to the Faculty of Graduate Studies, like they would call Fiona would say, oh yeah, I handed it in, da da da, and the Faculty of Graduate Studies would be like, well, we never got it, so where is it, so I have a feeling that Fiona never handed it in, and there was many other people who were there. Like I remember specifically going in one day, and there was a guy in a wheelchair at her office, and Fiona was telling him that he could go to the in-between place where they do the paperwork, not before it goes to Faculty of Graduate Studies. It's like the academic administration graduate board or something, and it was on the opposite end of campus, which is about a kilometer or half a kilometer away from the IS department, which is in the very north end of the campus. She was telling this guy in a wheelchair, well, you could just take it over there yourself if you want to, and he's like, don't you see I'm in a wheelchair? It's really, really hard for me to like go from here to over there because the curbs and the accessibility issues. And there wasn't like on-campus transportation or anything, so like there was no bus you could go on from IS to over there. I offered to actually take it for him, but it's Fiona's job to hand it in. That's like her only job is to receive papers from the students, make sure they're signed. Like if the dean needed to sign it, she would let you know. And then you have to go through your emails, your 30 emails a day, not doing your homework, not doing your allocated job work from your supervisor, but like looking through emails about, oh, announcement in, oh, that's the 3 departments. I was in biology, fine art filmmaking, like fine arts or filmmaking, because I wasn't sure how to display my videos, and sex and gender studies. I was studying trans studies, but there's no trans studies department. It was like under sex and gender studies. So there you would get announcements from people are doing like history department things, and oh, there's a thesis in biology, and there's a thesis presentation in art, and she would just give you everything from the entire school, and it's like, oh my god, like how much of this do I have to go through and there's no differentiation between her email sending you something so you can't filter it, or her email you saying, oh, your paperwork is incomplete, please come in and sign this or that, or submit it on this form instead of that form. And there's like, if you look at the website, there's like 4 or 5 pages of just line by line forms you can click on. It's like a government forms page, basically, of which form you need to fill out to remove your incomplete mark or like withdraw from a class. And it was actually the dean of political science whose class I was taking. Her name is Shannon Bell, and she's an activist for trans and queer rights and sex worker positivity. I saw her sign the paper in front of me. I delivered the paper to the IS department. I'm not sure if I took a copy of it. I should have. If I didn't, I have to check again. I actually just emailed Miss Bird, who's our new, like I was working under another dean, but he left, he retired, and Fiona's still there. And I actually emailed Miss Bird, who's our new dean, yesterday. Is Fiona Fernandez still working there? Because I can't return to my program until she retires or quits. And the other route I can do is to prove that I submitted the paperwork via emails of the back and forth. Submit that to QP 39097. I can't remember even. It's been a long time ago. And then do a internal review, kind of an internal trial of Fiona and her practices. And it would be better if there was a bunch of us doing that, but and I've heard other people having issues with her, but my hands are tied, really. And I mean, the older I get, the more my disability of the crushed nerves in my back caused me a lot of pain. I almost couldn't do this video today because of the pain I'm in. I couldn't work yesterday, so I'm very limited about what I can do. I don't know if it's worth my energy to look into this education component. I only want to get it because it was one of my life goals to surpass my father in education, and he has a master's degree. And or he has a bachelor's degree and I wanted to get a master's degree. That's the only reason. But the more I get into the educational part of it, I want to go on to do my PhD, and I basically have written a PhD thesis. I just need to type out a bunch of things from different notebooks and sources and tidy it up, basically. I don't even have to do the writing component of it because it's done. So that's one reason why I love the program. Just gonna check my camera. Probably should get up and leave, but yeah, I don't know if it's still recording. So yeah, and the lighting is up. Automatic sensors. So. The next reason I left my program was I was pursuing IVF. It stands for in vitro fertility options. I'm postmenopausal, no longer cycling, and I stopped after being on T for 3 months. And I hear between 5 and 7 years there's a state of atrophy within the body's organs, so that they no longer can function. So I wanted to pursue that option, and thinking along those lines, before getting or altering any lower stuff, I wanted to experience this masculine presentation and being in a relationship with I want to say a femme-identified presenting person, but it doesn't even really matter to me because I'm demisexual and pansexual. But I wanted to experience, to put it simply, like being a top with a woman. To be male and masculine presenting and having this heavier muscle structure that I didn't have before, and being with a femme person. So I wanted to experience sex, basically, and I've had a handful of opportunities, I think like 3, and I've talked a bit about it before. All those opportunities, it turned out that the person was not being truthful in their profile for some reason, and they were saying they were, to put it simply, like a trans woman who's a bottom, like looking for a top guy or a masculine person. And when I got together with these people, it turned out they wanted to top me, which I wasn't comfortable with, but also being on T, it heightens your sexual drive, like, extremely. I would say it's similar to, like, taking half to 3/4 of a dose of ecstasy. So you feel this rush all the time for, like, you kind of get used to it, and it kind of like settles down with your body after 3 or 4 years. So in the heat of the moment, I just let them, I kind of disassociated actually, and just let them do whatever with my body. I just wanted to feel something, some sort of pleasure, and unfortunately, like, I let people do things to me that I did not actually consent to. And I don't regret it, but it did make me kind of angry for a while. And I kind of self-isolated while I'm still in that situation. Because I figured, like, if a trans woman or I also dated a non-binary person, is going to lie, say they're a bottom, and then top me once they have me head in an awkward situation, like, and I feel like I can't do anything about it. I mean, I could just say, no, get out, but it just seems so rude too, like, and that's not really who I am, to be like, oh, we're making out and kissing, and then, no, get out, put your clothes on and get out, you know, like, I'm not that type of person, like, so it was just really hard to deal with these people that I trusted with, you know, who said they liked me, you know, like, it's hard to, now it's like, my heart is thumping. It's hard to know to, it's hard for me to trust anybody. When somebody says they're bottom, I'm like, yeah, right. You know, or somebody says, oh, Toronto's like full of bottoms, it's bottom city. I'm like, whatever, yeah, right. Like, every single bottom I met has been a top. You know, it's, or every single, more accurate would be every single person I met has been a liar and um, wanted to fuck a town. It's, um, so that was reason two. I left because I wanted to have IVF, and to have IVF, I wanted to have a sexual experience first before even having a histo. I have right now a lot of pain in my pelvis area regularly, at least once a day, usually twice, and it's usually around bowel movements. And I don't know if it's a problem with my organs, my intestinal digestive tract, or if it's a problem with, like, I have extreme pain, or if it's because it's pressing, like, the poops inside or pressing against my uterus and my ovaries, or what it, I don't know what it is. So um, so like, I still try occasionally to, like, I even, like, well, I went to hang out with a person I knew from when I used to work in film. So it was like hanging out as friends. So, but I met them on OkCupid, so, like, reacquainted. So I'm still on there and still trying, kind of, but I really don't find very many people attractive at all. Like, I could be swiping left, like, all day, but the past month or so, I'm trying this thing where I just swipe right on every single picture. I don't even look at them, I just swipe right. And I can reach my max, like, for the day, and there'll be no match. So, in my inbox, I've had 3 messages, and they've been from guys. 2 women have responded to messages I sent, but I've only gone on a couple of times and, like, looked at the matches and, like, wrote something to somebody. And I don't think it's that because of my, like, pre-programmed gender roles or anything. I think it's just, like, I don't have the mental and physical energy to bother to believe that somebody is who they say they are. So, like, every time I find somebody who I think I can, who seems like they have their shit together and I think I can trust them, they look like trustworthy, they've been complete liars. So I don't really know how to get over my lack of trust, and yeah, so I'm just trying to make a couple friends, and I've been trying to do that for a number of years. I've been in and out of, like, trans support groups, and I find with those, though, it's like a lot of, I'm really, like, even, like, a step farther away from wanting to become a friend with somebody. Like, the age group is very different, and when it's not, there's like lots of people are drug addicts and like homeless, and I'm not that. So, and I don't want to associate with that. I want to associate with people who inspire me to move up to their level, kind of thing. Not that I'm uninspired, but I'm doing as much as I can with my physical disability, and I can only work like 2.5 hours a day at a job. So I'm not sure because of that reason if I can do my master's either. So yeah, I kind of left around 2013. There was like 2 or 3 people in a row that set up dates and then stood me up, or didn't think the relationship we were having was actually happening. One like was hanging out with me for like 2 years, and then told me she had a husband of 10 years. Like, just like such a liar. Like, how do you omit like, oh, by the way, I've been with my husband for 10 years and I'm monogamous. Like, it's like, hello, why are you dating me then if you're not poly? Like, I don't understand. Like, so there's kind of like people who lie to themselves, and in turn that's like lying to me, obviously, because they can't even tell themselves the truth. It's like, I don't know why I keep running into them, but I do. So yeah, after that with the paperwork, like I couldn't continue. I couldn't, like, it's like my account's on hold. I can't withdraw from the program without that incomplete removed, which actually turned to a fail, and now I have an F mark on my grades, which brings down the whole A minus average to like a C minus or something. So like I can't apply to another school. I was thinking of looking into going to OCAD again, and just seeing what they can do to help me, because it's not my fault that I keep submitting this paperwork and it's not processed. So, and I've taken it to Fiona, and I've taken it to, I remember taking it something, I think it was that form, because that's the only thing I need to have processed, it like right to the people below faculty of graduate studies, like above Fiona, like that place that she was telling the guy in the wheelchair to go across campus and like take his paper to. And as far as I know, it's filled out correctly. Like, I had the dean sign it right in front of me, like both of them, the dean of my department and the dean of political science, who is the teacher, the professor of the class. So like, I feel really stressed out from this thing that I have no control over. It's a simple piece of paper that needs to be entered into a computer, and there's somebody in the programs there that's like seeing my name and ripping it up or something. I don't know. Maybe I should research who's in these departments. I don't know. So that's where I'm at with school, and then because of that, and because of my back, I was also having another reason. So I guess reason 3. I was also having an issue with my disabilities, and I went to the disability. Well, the thing I thought of was I was starting to forget things. Like, I'd set up a meeting with my 3, because in that department you have 3 departments that you work with, and then so I have a supervisor in each department instead of just you're in one department, you have one supervisor and you do your thesis with them. So I set up a meeting with 3 different thesis supervisors and myself to like discuss my thesis, and I forgot about it. I didn't show up. So I was having memory issues. I was also experiencing lack of sleep. So I guess there's a fourth reason too. Lack of sleep was because there was construction in my building. All the units around me were being flipped and turned into like condo style factory office spaces. So I was dealing with like jackhammers and drills like in the floor above me, in the one beside me, and the one below me. And that started in 2004 and 5, around when I left my program for good, or decided to stop submitting this paperwork. Lack of sleep can cause you to have migraines, dizzy spells, nausea, disorientation. You forget everything. You forget things that happen, and you forget to do things like check your calendar. You're in this kind of numb zombie state. I'm not sure if the lights can come back on, but so I wasn't really able to function, and I was experiencing a lot of pain. And when I went to the Disability Services Department, they said I could. I actually went to like a mental health one first to see if there was something wrong with my brain, because it takes me a really long time to read books. Like a book that would take one person a month to read takes me 3 to 4 months, and I would have to ask for my literature like a semester and a half beforehand to be able to finish a class. And that's also tied into my physical pain. Like I can only handle so much pressure on my back, and then when I lie down to relieve the pressure on my nerves in my back, I tend to fall asleep, and that's also tied into the depression and stuff I was experiencing. So they asked me at the mental health kind of stuff, like I pursued counseling and stuff for some really more minor issues, minor depression, anxiety. But they asked me if I had any physical illnesses, and I didn't really think about it because I was in so much pain all the time that you tend to just block it, and your whole like part of in the back of your mind is like focused on blocking pain. So I went to the physical disabilities department, and they offered things like they could offer things like note taking, or they offered me a computer program I would have to scan every page from a book, which would take just as much time as actually reading it, into a specialty scanner, and then I could have a program read it to me, because a lot of philosophy books are not read out loud on sites like Kindle or Spotify or something. But they let me know that, and I consulted with them, and I also picked up some magazines there that went through the whole procedure of applying for disability support. And to be able to apply for that, I had to leave school. I had to be unemployed and unable to work and not in school for a year and a half. And when you apply for disability, so I think I applied in November, December, I got a letter back in May saying they received it, and then it was adjudicated the first time, I think in June or July. They deny it the first time always, and then you have to appeal the decision. And then, so it wasn't until the following February that it was approved. So it took about a year and a half to go on to disability support, and that whole time I had to be on Ontario Works, which is, some people call it welfare. It used to be called welfare, which is a very minimal income but for me, because of the stigmatism surrounding me, being perceived as extremely young, as like 18 years old when I'm 28 years old and trying to pursue my career. Oh, you're really young, you have time to move up, don't worry about it. It's like, well, I've been doing this for 10 years as a camera guy for 10 years. Like, when can I be a focus puller? Like, when can I, like on features, I was like a clapper loader. When can I move up to focus pulling? Like when I'm 50? Like, but even me looking back at my pictures then, I look extremely young. Like, I looked like I was 18 when I was 32, you know? So that prevented me from an income I should have been having at that time. At the peak career portion of my life, I wasn't getting. I was mostly working security jobs. Like, I couldn't get jobs even as a slate guy. Like it was really hard. Um, and there were very few, and it'd have to be like somebody got sick and couldn't make it in that day, and then I rushed over to set and like filled in for them. It's a lot of those